you so much for coming. Today we are talking about the book Boundaries for Your Soul, and this is a really great book. It's a Christian approach to the internal family systems model. So, like, for those of you who are not on the call, but I have Cheryl with me here on the call for our little book club. It's just she and I today. But if you are listening to the replay of this or watching this in the course area, like if you saw the Pixar movie Inside Out, you may have realized that you were watching like a little tutorial about parts work,
Yeah.
like internal family system. Yeah, so and if you didn't watch the movie, it just that movie, it's like about the inner world of this little girl named Riley, whose life was just disrupted by um moving across the country and stuff like that. And so each of her emotions, like anger, fear, sadness, disgust, and joy, like are all personified by little characters with the same names. And each of them like competes to push their own agenda. So it's really interesting because that's kind of the way that our brains actually work, right? Is that parts work is just a really interesting new evidence-based model of therapy that can be a really great way to think about your brain. So if you're struggling, it can be a way for us to like do that inner work to work with us. So for those of you who are wanting to lose weight with the sugar and flour free lifestyle, um, sometimes we have some inner work that needs to be done. And um, so so this is just a really helpful tool, and we talked about this recently on one of the recent podcast episodes, but I wanted to touch base on it and do a more in-depth discussion about parts work in this book club because I read this book. It was recommended to me by my friend who talked to me about doing parts work, and I found it so helpful in my own program. So I just thought it was a really great tool. Cheryl has had a history with parts work too. Like, tell us, Cheryl, like, how has parts work been helpful for you in your life? In what ways have you used it?
Well, I think Richard Schwartz has been doing this like for 40 years, but it's just caught a lot of momentum lately.
Hmm.
And funny is when I first heard him talk about all the kids on the bus, and you have to go somewhere, but one kid's throwing a tantrum because he wants ice cream, or. And so it's been really helpful for me. I can do it by myself, but I can also, my therapist helped me do it. And so in this book, I read this book after Erin found it. And so this is a great book.
Yeah,
What questions to ask yourself?
yeah, totally. So I just want to do a little bit of overview of what the book teaches about internal family systems for people who are new to that and who don't know a lot about it. So internal family systems, it's just like a narrative about your inner world, the inner thoughts, feelings, and parts that you have inside of you. Like if you've ever like you may have the experience of if you're trying to lose weight with the sugar and flour free lifestyle, like part of you is really excited about this idea and it's just like, yes, we got to do this. And then another part is like dragging its feet or resisting or right. And so like at the same moment, like part of you wants to do it, part of you doesn't want to do it. And so this is just a way for us to use that highest part of ourselves to drive the bus, like Cheryl was saying. You know, there so um so Boundaries for Your Soul is just like a Christian perspective on parts work, and I really like it because I think it's important for me. Like faith is an important part of my life, and so bringing God into this, it makes it more meaningful to me. So so that we have three parts of us. So just as you're created like with specific physical traits, brown hair, blue eyes, whatever you look like, you're also created with three parts of your soul. These parts develop over time, and when they're hurt, rejected, or traumatized, they can take on extreme thoughts and feelings, or painful memories can weigh them down, and then they can cause you to behave in ways that you wish you wouldn't. So if you have struggled with binging, or if you have the intention of staying on your plan, but then you find yourself, in the pantry or whatever, right? So the goal is not to get rid of any of these parts inside of you, and there are no bad parts. All of the parts inside of you are just like there to help you. Um, uh, so it's impossible to get rid of any parts, right? These are just parts of you, your personality. Um, so our goal is just to help them to heal, to grow, and to discover their God-given roles. So,
I
so
love because you're nice to all of you.
yeah,
Let's do
exactly.
the one that's wants ice cream or whatever, just screaming. Push it down, but if you understand it, then you probably could find another way to accommodate it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, so
So
I
it's
just,
like learning to embrace all of the different parts of us, right? Like even the parts that we don't like. So there's three different parts of us. So um so first we have protectors, and protectors are the part of your soul. Oh yeah, Cheryl is showing the little graphic from the book. We have protectors, and protectors are the parts of your soul that keep you from pain. So think of your protectors as falling into one of two categories. So you have your managers and you have your firefighters. And both of them work really tirelessly through different ways to try to protect you from overwhelming feelings and the more vulnerable parts of your soul. So managers are just protectors. It's a part of you that's trying to help and protect you, and it strives to keep you emotionally safe. Uh, they drive you to perform and produce and protect and to please. So managers really believe it's impractical for you to get bogged down with emotional pain. Um, and so without healthy boundaries, like you might be kept from experiencing emotional growth or deep joy or connection. So some of the common things that um, some of the ways that that shows up for us is like when we find ourselves worrying unnecessarily, or people pleasing, or overworking, or overanalyzing. So these are all, um, you know, uh, ways that our managers are trying to help us. It's maybe even excessive criticism, like self-criticism, um, perfectionism. So those are all parts of you that are managers. Firefighters are another part, are another protective part. So while managers, they try to act preemptively, they try to avoid pain. Firefighters try to extinguish pain. So like you have existing pain and it just tries to make you feel better after it occurs. And so these impulsive parts, these firefighter parts, it's kind of like going in, like you think of a burning building and the firefighter goes in and puts out the fire, right? So these impulsive parts like are trying to put out the fire. They're trying to help you to indulge in whatever feels good, um, like distracting and tricking you into believing that you're handling your life well. And if it's not kept within healthy boundary lines, they can really lead you down a path of self-destruction and self-indulgence. So sometimes we find ourselves, our firefighter activities um, can show up as like gambling or pornography, mindless web surfing, overeating, overspending, like addictions, right? Oversleeping, um, uh, any addictions to substances or sex or gambling or drugs, like those are all ways, those are all parts of you that are just trying to help you to feel better. And when we can understand that, it helps us to have a little bit more compassion when we find ourselves struggling with those things um, that's just a part of you that's trying to help, but it doesn't really know how to help in a good way. And then the other part, the other part of you, so we have the three parts of you, the managers, the firefighters, and then the other one are exiles. So in addition to managers and firefighters, your soul has really vulnerable parts of it that can be called exiles because they've been banished or they're hiding. Like exiles are distressed parts of your managers. They're distressed parts that your managers and your firefighters are trying to protect. So if you've had maybe past trauma or childhood trauma um, or just wounded parts of your soul from insecurity, if you've been hurt, if you have feelings of being unseen or unappreciated, or you're lonely or you're sad, or you have shame or fear, you know, so those are exiles, and exiles have great need. They, but they often, but like if we don't befriend these parts of us, they can cause a lot of problems. Like we can have and fears or have like a victim mentality and stuff if we let them drive the bus, right? We want so so each of us has a part of us that or so who we really are, we are not our parts, we are us, like we are the highest part of ourselves. So in the book Boundaries for Your Soul, and I should mention this book is by Allison Cook and Kimberly Miller, um, and who are they just explain this so well. Um, so we are not our parts, like the parts of us are just parts, but we are our spirit-led self. So in addition to these parts, Dr. Schwartz, so Richard Schwartz, who is the one who created the philosophy of parts work or whatever you would call that, he identified that each of us has like a self that that we that in this book they call the spirit-led self. And I like how they give some examples of people in the Bible who have who kind of demonstrate these ideas. So like the Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians, he said, when you believed, you were marked on him with the seal of the promised Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit guides and restores these like fragmented parts of your soul. So your spirit-led self is who you really are. That's like your divine nature, and it's your highest, wisest self. Um, Kind of like the drop of divinity within you, and um, and so your spirit-led self is you when you're being led by God. Um, so a lot of psychologists have have referred to this as just like the space inside where you can experience all of your feelings without fear of judgment. And so um, the spirit-led self is the part of us that Richard Schwartz um, defines as like we know that we're in our spirit-led self when we are experiencing like the 8 C's. And so as Richard Schwartz has said those are like when we're feeling compassionate, when we're feeling curious or courage, clarity, creative, connected, confident, and calm. That's like when we know we're in our highest self. And so from there, we can draw, we can take a closer look at those troubling emotions that we're having, and we can look at them with some perspective. So we can invite Jesus or your higher power, God to work with all of these parts of us and help, and our spirit-led self can minister to like these wounded parts of us, um, so that they can be transformed. And with God, like what I really liked that I learned in this book about parts work is just like bringing God into this inner work that we're doing, and having Jesus as part of the healing process as we're learning to deal with our emotions um and overcome the challenges that we're facing. Um so to help us draw help draw troubled thoughts and feelings closer, or to gain more space from them as we need to, we um the book teaches about taking a U-turn. And a U-turn is just like when you notice that you're feeling a really strong emotion or you're really struggling in some way, it's just an opportunity for you to take a U-turn. And this process just involves looking within yourself to bring these overwhelming parts of your soul under your spirit-led self's leadership. So your highest self's leadership. And so there's 6 steps, oh, sorry, 5 steps to doing this. And it starts with focus. So first, we just want to focus on the overwhelming part of yourself. Step 2 is to befriend this part of you that you don't like. Step 3 is to invite Jesus to draw near, or your higher power to draw near to you and to this part. Step 4 is to unburden this weary part. And then step 5 is to integrate it into your internal family. And so by following the 5 steps and doing a U-turn, it really is powerful because it can help you to to start to work and understand these parts of you so that they can heal and transform. And um, so so anyway, yeah, Cheryl, any insights on that? Like anything I missed about parts work that could help to better explain it to someone who's not familiar?
Some parts are very wounded, and they're very, sometimes the managers won't even let you talk to them. The
Mm,
managers or the firefighters. So you have to say, okay, maybe next time, or, and sometimes they will, but sometimes they won't. But it's the managers that are trying to protect the exiles, especially with addictions. Like if somebody was injured as a small child, then they don't want that to ever happen to them again. So the firefighters keep them sort of numb their whole lives.
mhm.
Really kind of sad, but Richard Schwartz has been able to do incredible stuff in jails, all kinds of places, by healing these little parts. And the funny thing is, if you ask the part how old it thinks you are, they'll usually say like 3 or 5. They don't even know how old you are. And then you ask them, well, do you like this job? And they'll say no. And then you just work on getting them a different job. Because you're older, you're a lot older, and you're taking care of yourself. So that's the boundary, is you know how to take care of yourself now. Maybe not in the past, because you're so young. But
Right.
so it all comes around. And it's really, I mean, I just finished watching Inside Out 2. So it's really funny to watch all the parts everywhere. So, I mean, you can't tell other people, oh, that's your part. You're just going to take care of your own parts. But it's like, not my food, not
Right.
my, but it's helped me a lot. It helps my husband a lot. My son does it too. So, it's been
Yeah,
great.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so interesting, and I was kind of resistant to it in the beginning because I just thought it was a little bit different or weird, or I didn't know if it was something I really, you know, wanted to dive into. And it took me a few years to start to really understand like just how powerful this tool is in my food addiction recovery. And so the way that I use it is if I notice that I'm struggling in some way, like, or if I'm experiencing a really big emotion or a behavior um, that I want to change, that's kind of what helps me to know I need to go through some of these steps. And so what I do is I usually just like go on a walk and I have my phone that has all of these steps on there, and I just go through the questions. And I just want to read through the questions with anyone who is interested in what it looks like. So first, what's an emotion that you're experiencing right now or a behavior that you've identified that you want to change? And just what we want to do first is just focus on that. Like it said with the 5 steps, focus, befriend, invite, unburden, and integrate. So first we just want to focus and ask ourselves, okay, well, where do you sense this feeling physically? Like your sensation in your body, where is it? Can you name the emotion? Like, is there a thought or an image that comes to mind when you focus on it? And then how far away is it from you? Is it something that's like really fresh and that you're feeling right now, or is it something, or are you have a little bit of distance from it? And then one thing I like when you're doing this step of focusing is just like asking yourself, what's an early memory of this feeling? And that's something that's been new that's really helped me to kind of identify where when I first started experiencing some of the issues I've had or behaviors I've had, or I'm a person that experiences anxiety. And um, so just like being able to kind of go back to a little bit deeper of like what's behind it more. So maybe um, going back to an early memory of when you first started feeling that way, or maybe when you first started um, um, doing the behavior that you're wanting to change, just getting some insight there and focusing on it. The second step is just befriending. So, like, how do you feel toward this part of your soul, and just like reflecting on that. And if you're feeling anything other than curiosity or compassion toward this part of you, because it is a part of you, like when you're experiencing a big emotion or you see yourself doing a behavior you're not wanting to do, just know that that's a part of you that's active. And um, so how do you feel toward it? And if you're feeling anything other than curiosity or compassion towards the emotion, we just want to notice that that's another part of you. And we want to notice, we want to just ask that part of you that is being critical about or not liking this part of you. We want it to just step back and while we work with this part first. And so return back to that part of you that's experiencing your original emotion and ask, and, can you extend compassion to this part? Can you see how it's trying to help? Like it's kind of, it may be immature and just not realizing that it really is not helping you to go and binge it's not helping you to to throw a temper tantrum and like wanting to eat the ice cream like Cheryl is talking about, right? Like, but can you extend compassion to this part like it's a child or like it's just immature and doesn't know better? Um, and then just like having a little dialogue with it, like is there something that it wants you to know? And asking that part what it's good at, just trying to get to know it and befriend that part of you. The third step is just inviting Jesus to be near. So like with this part of you like to invite Jesus to be near? And if not, like what are its fears and concerns? Why doesn't it want Jesus to be near? And can it tell those fears and concerns to the Lord, to God? And um so and then, making God part of this and asking God like if he wants to say or do anything or give you a specific gift. The fourth step is unburdening. So, that part of you may have a burden that it's been carrying around for a long time. What is that burden? How, and does it have any fears about giving up that burden? Uh, how does this part want to release that burden? And maybe that. And so just going through these questions, it can kind of help you to understand what's happening internally that may be showing up in behaviors that you don't want. So like, does this part want anything in exchange, like peace or security or the assurance of love in exchange for giving up that burden? And we can give that burden to God. The fifth step here is just integrating. So just like an external family, like in my family, I have a husband, I have three daughters, I have parents, I have two sisters and a brother, right? So just like we have an external family, we have an internal family too. And we have all these parts inside of us that are our internal family, and they have relationships with each other too. And some of them like each other, some of them are allies, some of them don't like each other. And so just at this point, we want to just kind of check in if there was a part of you that didn't like this original emotion that you were experiencing. Like, just check in with that other part of you that didn't like your original emotion. And let's befriend that one too. So how is that part trying to help? What's that part good at? What does that part want you to know? What's the ultimate goal of your highest self? So we don't want these parts of us to be running our life. We want the highest, wisest part of us, our spirit-led self, to be running the show. And so now we want to just try to tap into that and ask, like, what is our ultimate goal of our internal family here? Like, um, what's the ultimate goal of our highest self? And how can these parts of us that are fighting or struggling or in some way, what new roles could these parts play in your internal family going forward? Maybe they've been trying to help in ways that haven't been helpful. So how could we give them a new job, like Cheryl was talking about earlier? And are these two parts willing to be on the same team in helping you to achieve that ultimate goal of what our big goal is, right? So is there anything that Jesus wants to tell these parts to encourage or reassure them? And then just, thanking all the parts of you and God for showing up for you today. So this is kind of like what I do when I find myself struggling. I did this just yesterday when I found myself off of my plan and I was frustrated with myself, and I was just having a hard time with different things. And so I went on a walk and I just went through these questions in my mind, and it just helped me to bring more clarity to what was happening for me internally, and help me to feel better. It just helped me to feel better and to heal and have more self-compassion. I think just recognizing that there are no bad parts. All of these parts are trying to help us, and sometimes they just need more guidance from God or from the spirit-led self of our spirit-led self, and they can grow and change and progress. Like, I have a part of me that's like a perfectionist and that wants to, for example, like with my business, it just wants to work all the time, and it's exhausting. Like, And I found myself like having this internal battle in my mind, like, oh, I should be working. And I'm like, no, you need to just rest. Like, like I can't rest. Like I gotta do all this stuff. And so when you notice like those internal battles in your mind, like those are just parts. Um, and so that's a great opportunity to, understand them more, befriend them, and then integrate them and help them to work together. So with that example, like when I found myself overworking and not resting enough, what I found was just like the part of me that wanted to overwork and that was just so stressed all the time of because I had so many things on my to-do list. I, I came to understand that rest is just another thing to put on my to-do list. And just having that part of me that wants to rest, like remind my perfectionist part that that's actually part of our ultimate strategy for achieving our big goals is like making sure I have time to rest. And that, but like I can't rest all the time, right? And so that's not going to help me to achieve my dreams and goals with my business or my life, right? And so that helped me to understand that, yeah, like so those parts can remind each other and help each other, but also, so that's like one way that has parts work has helped me recently. So yeah, Cheryl, any other insights that you would like to share?
Well, and you could go deep, or you can just do just realizing. And sometimes my therapist, like if I have an angry part, I'm allowed to do these videos in my head. So if the little girl is really angry about something, she can do anything she wants. She just can't hurt herself. I mean, it's a video. So if I want to blow up stuff, or if I can do that, and it just lets all the emotion go. And then I give all that to Jesus, and then he usually gives me something back. And then, like you were doing today, sometimes you make your current the little self grow up to your current self and merge together.
Hmm.
So that helped too. It's helped me a lot. I think I mentioned it last time, and I don't know if it really matters. But one time I saw this room where my brother was crying, and then like I actually found the house where my brother was born. I mean, he was born in the hospital, but where he cried a lot, and it was the same room. It was so weird. So it's way back in my
Subconscious, like,
mind, you know. And so I was wandering around. My mom may have been asleep. She's probably expecting the next child, and I'm so hungry, and my brother's screaming, and I found the actual rooms because it's for sale in New Jersey.
oh wow.
Weird, but I feel it helps you heal. You just have to. I mean, lately I've come to more the conclusion that we just have different experiences in this life, and we just try to navigate them. And some
Hmm.
and some are harder, like you say, the 30%. But this has helped me a lot, and I did even a memorial for my friend, my missionary companion, and I even made an internal family system. I
Oh,
can tell,
right. Oh,
but
you send that to us. That's so beautiful.
yeah, it says, I am clear, I am calm, I'm confident, curious, courageous, compassionate, creative, and connected forever.
Right.
So
And that's who we really are, right? Like
we
that's,
want to connect, yeah. And the thing
and
is making us not be connected, you know,
yeah, we find ourselves, um,
and overeating food. You got to eat some. But yeah,
yeah, like that's who we really are is that highest part of ourselves that's calm and connected and compassionate and curious, right? Like that's who we really are. That's like our divine nature. And the parts of us that are struggling, those are just parts of us that, but it's not who we really are. And that's another thing that's helped me to just realize that I am not my struggles. I am not a binge
yeah,
eater. you know,
Yours, not your fears, you know, that's not you.
right,
That's wonderful. Not your struggles, not your binge eating. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's great. And you can look up almost anything. IFS, bipolar, IFS, you know, whatever. And you'll find different people working on that part of it for that reason.
right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you so much for sharing, Cheryl, and for being here today. I appreciate your insights. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a really cool tool for anyone who is wanting to dive deeper into the inner work, to help to heal those parts of you that are wounded or struggling. This is a tool to help you to understand yourself better, and it really is powerful. So, what were you going to say, Cheryl?
I was going to say, you'll have to attach the PDF, you know, so they can at least look at the words. A few.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I definitely will in the course area. I'll attach the PDF there. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming, Cheryl, and thank you everybody. I hope that this is helpful for you and parts work, I'm not an expert in this. Like, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a person that experiences food addiction. I've used parts work for myself, but there are like therapists and stuff that do parts work, but you can also do it on your own. And so I encourage you to go and check this tool out and just even print out the questions that we went over today and just go on a walk and start to ask yourself this. Try to understand yourself. And um yeah, it's really interesting. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Cheryl.
It's
Well,
a, it's great. It's a great tool. Thanks, Erin. That's great.
yeah, we'll see you later. Have a great week.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.